overnight. We're in a lull right now. We're on generator power, so forgive me if I drop out. Furniture everywhere.
Wow.
And I know it's probably silly, but when it rains heavily, that's when all the tarantulas come out of their holes.
That's not
so
silly.
I have that to greet me today.
Do they come inside looking for shelter?
The last couple of days, there was one in the dining room last night.
No. And you have a bunch of liberals there, so you shoo them out rather than.
There was a moth in my room the size of a sparrow, not even a sparrow, a robin. It was like this, bigger than a sparrow, and I killed it, and it got that powder everywhere. You know how moths are.
Yeah.
And everybody jumped on me that it's one of God's creatures, and I should have captured it and taken it outside. I said I've killed 2 of them in my room already. Not to even talk about the family of mice that's in my dresser. That's why I'm still using suitcases back here.
Yeah, you can't really clobber them because they make such a mess. Not if that's even assuming you can catch them. They're like greased lightning. They're crazy.
Yeah.
The tarantula situation sounds heinous, I have to say. At least is the rain knocking the mosquitoes out of the sky?
Yeah, for the very first time. The rain is helping with the mosquitoes. Ted, it is so oppressively hot and humid here. I feel like I'm melting. And everybody keeps saying, "Oh, it's very unusual. This is the weather for early September, not early October." It is just stifling.
I'm so sorry, John. I mean, I hate
we're having fun filming the movie. The star arrived a couple days ago.
Are you at liberty to say who the star is?
Yeah, it's Jeff Fahey. He was in Motorcycle Man and Lost and a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, what was he in? I was a big fan of Lost. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, he was a helicopter pilot.
Oh, that guy's great.
Yeah, he's great.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see it. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I've never acted before, and it's hard and it's intimidating, but all these people are professional actors, and so that's what has made it so much easier.
For you?
Yeah, very helpful. I'm enjoying myself very much.
Are they giving you hints, anything?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that.
It's a
when I got into talk radio, Mike Gallagher, the conservative talk.
Oh yeah, sure.
He basically taught me everything I know about talk radio, and it was others will judge whether that was worth knowing or not. All right, I'm going to go through a rundown, and then we'll bring in Robbie in for a little business, and then we'll get to it. So it's the second anniversary of the October 7th Hamas attack. As I put into the thumbnail, Hamas, I think we've talked about this, and I think we'll probably agree on the idea. Hamas appears to have won. We'll talk about the future of the conflict as it enters its third year. Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court was denied. We'll talk about whether Trump plans to pardon her or give her clemency or whatnot. Also, we've got the political crisis in France is deepening, unsurprisingly, after Sébastien Lecornu stepped down. The stock markets there, La Bourse, is just completely roiling. The French economy is kind of on the ropes, and even his first prime minister is urging President Emmanuel Macron to resign. I think we're going to see more calls for his resignation in the coming hours and days. The government shutdown continues apace. John, you might be better off not flying around the United States, even there. I was laughing because, and in horror, at the fact that a pilot at Burbank Airport, north of LA, called the control tower to get instructions from ATC and basically got it's like, no one's here to help you due to short staffing and the government shutdown. I mean, he did manage to get off the ground, I guess, with instructions from LAX, but still, that's pretty crazy. So we also should bring in Robbie. We had a little bit of disconcerting financial news that we're going to bring you up to speed on. And thanks, everyone, for watching us here. We really appreciate you. Robbie.
So good morning. It seems like every time that the producer comes on, it's always bad news.
That's not true.
And then okay, that's not true. But I do want to just kind of rub your nose into this, John. Here in Montana, it is currently a steamy 24 degrees.
Oh my God.
And we got frost everywhere. So while you're there sweltering in Mexico, I just want to let you know I am very much enjoying the fact we actually have seasons here in Montana. So, so there is that. But no, let's just go into the news. So first and foremost, YouTube has demonetized us. Yes, y'all heard that right. So for those of you who watch us on YouTube, we appreciate it. But I just want y'all to know that YouTube thanks you very much because they are directly benefiting from your watching, but John and Ted are not getting a dime from what y'all are doing. We've launched an appeal. There's some things we're going to try and get the situation rectified. Is that going to happen or not? Listen, I don't know. YouTube is a part of the beast. It's a part of the machine. It is what it is. I was worried this was probably going to happen, and here we are. So if y'all want to support John and Ted, and I encourage y'all to do that, because for the show to continue, they've got to earn money. I mean, they got bills to pay. Let's just be honest. That's how our society works. If you want to support the show, please, please, please watch us over on Rumble. And I know that the morning show is inconvenient for some people. So going forward, starting today, I'm going to start streaming the morning show at the old time, 5 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Mountain Time for the people in civilized America where I am. So y'all are going to be able to have the morning and the afternoon show. If you want to support the show on Rumble, you can of course donate. You become channel subscribers. Cost you $5 a month. If you do that, then you get to see the premium episodes they're going to be dropping with John and Ted. John's entire story's up. Ted started yesterday, and basically that's all I've got. If y'all want Deprogram to survive, we need your help. And right now, Rumble is the one that's throwing us the lifeline. Watch us on Rumble. They pay us off of watch hours. You can donate, become channel subscribers. Because, I mean, me being the good capitalist that I am, and the right-wing capitalist at that, I don't like the idea of working for someone for free. And that's what we're doing right now on YouTube.
And if I know there are a lot of people who don't like this option, but and for you,
PayPal is an option too.
PayPal is an option. Here's the PayPal address: deprogrampodcast@gmail.com. It's deprogrampodcast@gmail.com. Okay, Robbie, thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Robbie.
And big shout out to Scott over there on Rumble. Thank you for what you do. Fuck YouTube, and I wholeheartedly agree with that message. Fuck you, YouTube.
All right, Robbie, we'll see you later. All right, let's get to it. What do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about France shutdown, Ghislaine, or Gaza?
Yeah, and actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about France because
Sure.
I have a question. I think probably a lot of people have this question. In my memory, going back to Georges Pompidou, or maybe even before, I don't remember a French president ever resigning. What happens when a French president resigns? They have fixed, 8-year terms, 10-year terms? It's long.
It's 5. It used to be 7. Now it's 5.
No, it's fine.
So
what happens?
The current term is meant to end in 2 years. So I'm not sure what time of the year it is. But so the last time it happened, I believe, was Charles de Gaulle in his third time as president, after the May 1968 student and union uprising that almost caused a socialist revolution in France. And basically what happens is that there's new elections. And
is it just to fill out the remainder of the term, or does a new 5-year term start?
No, I think that's just that's a good question. I have to look that up. I don't know the answer to that, John. I think it's to finish the term though. And then they can run for re-election. There's currently a term limit. You can only serve 2 terms. So I think it's analogous to ours in that, like, you could, if Macron stepped down, the person who wins could run theoretically 2 more times. and be elected. So it would work like that. But I have to look into that, and I don't know the answer. But it's the situation's very very fraught. Macron's been just trying to play the same game over and over and over, and all the French political observers from far left to far right and everything in between kind of agree that this just can't go on. I mean, he basically just keeps putting up these moderate, centrist, corporatist prime ministers who can't form a government. I mean, and the way that the French political alignment is now, everything has grabbed. Basically, what you have is a mushy, small minority party in the form of Macron's party. Then over on the right, you have a unified right, the under Marine Le Pen,
right,
and Jordan Bardella, her protege. Then over on the left, you have an alliance of convenience of left-wing parties that, all told, add up to the biggest plurality party. And so in the last snap election that was held in April of last year, that was called the New Popular Front. That's hearkening to 1936 and the old French Popular Front, which was again a front of the socialist and communist and other related parties. And they elected back in 1936, famously, France's first and only Jewish president, Léon Blum, who also instituted, he was the FDR of France. He instituted the French social safety net as we know it today. So this is very resonant. So we don't know if the New Popular Front could reform. I think they will. And so the question is, when will Macron see reality? John, there is no world in which Emmanuel Macron finishes his term.
Not a chance.
It's impossible. I mean, I think if he lives to see, if he makes it to Christmas, he's lucky. I don't think so.
Wow, Christmas is right around the corner.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I mean, he's really on the ropes. Look, I understand it's disgrace. In the French system, it's even more of a disgrace to step down as president than it is for an American president. It's bad. Like, it's a blot on you in history. It's just like, what kind of fucking scandal-scarred loser are you? De Gaulle had it coming. He was just exhausted. He was so old by then, and he was so out of touch with the youth and everything. He was hated and reviled, and basically he just died shortly after resigning. Right? Macron's a young man. He has his whole life really ahead of him, and so he's got to be just like, his head's spinning. I don't think he can process it. I think his little brain is he's like the little disc on your computer circling. He just can't believe this is happening. He went from having total control of the French Parliament to, and the Élysée Palace, and being, the dominant leader in Western Europe, to being like hated and reviled. It's crazy, but they've got to do something.
Yeah.
And also another thing that's true is that the corporate interests are not going to get their way this time. Sorry, yeah, you guys want like austerity, and you want to roll back the social safety net, and you want a higher retirement age and all that. You may get it, but you're not getting it this time. The far left and the far right total probably account for about 70% or more of the vote, and the French people, and not to mention cities are going to burn. So it's just not going to happen. So, Macronisme is finished. Now this becomes a struggle between the left and the right. And if they're smart, what they'll do is they'll put together some kind of populist kind of, accommodation because there's a lot of stuff that they can agree on. I mean, The right, unlike here in the United States, the right in France believes in a social safety net. The right believes in climate change and thinks that it's actually happening. The right cares about the environment, so they can do a lot together. And they also believe, they both agree in putting domestic interests first.
Ted, what do you assess as the chances for violence? The French, one of the things I've always liked about the French is that they're very quick to go out into the streets. We saw the yellow vest protests. I mean, look, going back to 1968, and the student protests of 68. Do you see that happening again in the short term?
The proclivity, I mean, I think the chances for violence are better than 50-50. The question is, how far will the violence go? I mean, there's already been violence, right? I mean, there's been running street battles between the Sûreté and the protesters. There's, trash fires. There's been strikes that have been suppressed really violently. The French cops, the national police, they're goons. They're mean as shit. And they just tend to raise the temperature. So I think violence definitely is going to happen. The question is, how far will it go? And, how far will the government be willing to go to suppress it? It could, I mean, honestly, I don't really see the limit just yet. Right. There's got to be one, but I don't know. It's the French are, like you said, Mistello Maserati, John is saying, I will also help donate and stay in touch through RT. I have Sachs and McGovern on speed dial. Frog Enthusiast 235 says, I think you underestimate how much Macron will do not to resign. I always love these nicknames that people have on the internet. I was never able to come up with good ones.
No, nor
it's like I'm always just like
Jake Kiriakou.
Yeah, Ted Rall in 1963.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's I'm a boring person that way. Someone once was making fun of me and calling me Tokyo Rose, and they called me Kabul Ted back during the War of Terrors, and so I took it for myself. I thought it was hilarious. But yeah, hey John, do you worry about Kimberly Guilfoyle in Greece? That's a question. Ludwig wants to know.
Yes. Greeks are worried about Kimberly Guilfoyle. Yes, they're being very nice about it. They're not being too terribly public about it, but they don't like her. They believe that she's a lightweight. They don't care if she was once an assistant U.S. attorney. Does not matter to anybody. The Greeks are used to having professional diplomats as American ambassadors. Every once in a while, there's a political appointee, but they tend to be Greek Americans, wealthy Greek Americans, who already have close ties to the Greek government, and so that's fine too. But this is something the Greeks are not happy about. I will say she's probably smarter than we generally give her credit for. So I don't know.
She needs a better. She needs a better rhinoplasty expert, though.
Yeah.
That was, the Dead Kennedys, one of my favorite bands, had an album called Plastic Surgery Disasters. I always think of that title whenever I look at her.
Yeah, she needs the doctors from Botched.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe it's like the $6 million man. We have the technology. We can rebuild her. Maybe. Okay, so all right, so is that enough? So that's it for France. Maybe. What do you want to? What should we do now? Shutdown?
Well, yeah, we should talk about the shutdown too. Donald Trump made a statement yesterday that was just so typically Trump and so silly. He said that, okay, he's willing to talk about Obamacare subsidies, but only after the government reopens. That's the point of the shutdown.
Right.
It's shut down because you can't agree on Obamacare subsidies. So what he's saying is he's willing to talk about Obamacare subsidies if the Democrats walk away from them.
Right, which is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I mean, here's the thing.
It's a waste of breath to even say it.
True. Now, the thing is, though, Donald Trump, even though the polls are running against the Republicans on the shutdown, the thing is that the Republicans do have one major thing going for them, which is that the Democratic messaging has been shit on this. Yeah. And so, all the Democrats need to do is say, look, today's October 7th. On October 15th, millions of Americans are going to start getting kicked off Medicaid because that's the deadline for 2026 healthcare. They missed that. The subsidies aren't in place by October 14th. In a week from today, then the system's going to start to collapse. And in November 15th is another round of deadlines for the non-Medicaid, for the people who are like middle class and just need a government subsidy. Those people are going to be kicked out of the system, or maybe not. They'll just have to pay a shit ton more. So, instead of paying, $200 a month, they might have to pay $1,000 a month or more. Some of the basic plans here in New York City are $1,400 or $1,600 a month, and that's with like $10,000 deductibles and stuff.
I pay $983 a month. And I told you, my doctor said to me when I went to the doctor last time, he said, "Why do you have this shit insurance?"
Well, that's Obamacare.
$1,000 a month. Yep.
Yeah. It's by county. It's very, very. It's a shitty system. Yep. But the only thing worse than a shitty system is no system at all. Yeah. And that's kind of like what the Republicans want. So the Democrats haven't been messaging. They haven't been running any ads on social or on TV. So there's, they're not getting their message through. Nobody really knows. Basically, it's what this is really about. It's frustrating, John, because I think the deadline's going to lapse the way things are going. And then the thing is, if millions of people who are kicked off the healthcare system are no longer in it, by next year, it's not like Humpty Dumpty is going to be put back together again by next year. I mean, not with this president, not with this Congress. So the ACA will just crumble. The Democrats can't go along with it. They just can't, because literally, John, I've been thinking about this. I think this is a grave crisis for the Democratic Party. I mean, they're already in deep trouble. If they let this go, they will be blamed for the end of the healthcare system. If they can't give those 7 Senate votes to Donald Trump. They can't. The government stays shut down. I mean, obviously, Congress could pass some kind of workaround that says we're changing all the deadlines. But that's more work. That's going to be, that's going to require almost something that feels like a grand bargain. Hard to imagine between these two political parties at this time. But the Democrats, I don't think the Republicans know that the Democrats can't go along with this. This is something, when you negotiate, you have to know what the other side needs and what they want. The Democrats need this. They have to have it. I don't know if the Republicans understand that.
Yeah, I think they
don't. Or
if
they care.
I think they don't. But I agree with you, Ted, that Democratic messaging is as bad as I've seen it be since the 1994 Republican contract with America. I kept waiting in 1994 for the Democrats to say something, to come up with some proposal, some policy. And it was nothing. And that's how it is again this year. They don't stand for anything.
Tammy Landengren says, the Dems can effectively complicate a wet dream.
Indeed. I think we've got an ad, Ted.
All right, we're ready for it, Robbie. Whenever you're ready to put that up, I'll blast through it. Okay, so I think this goes on. We should talk about Gaza.
Yeah, we should.
So it's been 2 years since the October 7th attack. Okay, we'll hold that there. Here's the ad. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother, strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Okay, so obviously we all know what happened on October 7th, 2023. I'm not going to revisit all that. We all know what's happened to Gaza. But right now, as we're talking, it looks like Trump secretly behind the scenes was really pissed off at Bibi Netanyahu. And
Netanyahu embarrassed him by bombing Qatar. That was the breaking point.
That was it. That did him in. And that's why he was like, okay, you're going to call and apply to the Qataris, apologize to the Qataris, and promise to never do anything like that again. And hilariously, Donald Trump has now personally given a protection pact to the Qataris, like, I will protect you militarily in the event of an attack. Presumably, that would involve maybe against an attack by the IDF. I mean, that would be an attack as an attack, right? That's the attack that happened most recently, and therefore most likely to happen in the future. And so, and then when Hamas cleverly dragged to their feet and said, okay, we'll give you back all the hostages. Donald Trump said, peace is at hand, peace in our time. Neville Chamberlain, we're done, we're good. Everyone come home, victory parade, yep. Nobel Prize. And now Netanyahu is between a rock and a hard place. He can't say no, but he has to say no. So he's going to scuttle things. I agree with you that he's attacking Iran or something like it. Most likely Iran is going to be his way out, or at least so he hopes. I don't know if that'll work with Donald Trump, because someone around the table has to have told Donald Trump, this is what Bibi's going to do. And so Trump's going to have seen it coming and not like it. I think that the Hamas won the war. Hamas carried out one of the most brilliant, raids in the modern history of warfare. I mean, they were outmatched militarily, economically, certainly in terms of diplomatically, in every way, and they waged asymmetric warfare, and they've prevailed. And you could say, okay, well, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Gazans are dead as a result, and that's true.
Yes,
but they're going to end up with something that feels like a Palestinian state, and I don't think it'll be a demilitarized Bantustan. I think it's going to be the real fucking thing, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later.
I think that's probably right. Something is going to happen in favor of the Palestinians. Netanyahu has put Israel into an untenable position. When your only choices are to continue fighting in an unpopular war, and we talked yesterday about tripling in the number of IDF soldiers who are committing suicide, or your second choice is to bomb Iran again, unprovoked again. Those are not winning combinations.
No.
And you don't have to love Iran to put your foot down this time and say, look, enough is enough. You can't just bomb your way out of this, right? They bombed Gaza, they bombed Lebanon, they bombed Iran a second time, they bombed Iran a third time, they bombed Yemen and killed the prime minister, and it hasn't gotten them anything. So it's time to negotiate a settlement. And I agree with you, Ted, that anything the Palestinians get is better what they have than what they have now.
Yeah, and better, and I would argue better than what they had before 2023.
Agreed.
They were living in misery.
They had what, two hours of electricity a day, 5 hours of water, or maybe I got it reversed.
Hyperinflation.
Yes.
Every staggeringly high unemployment. The Israelis would sometimes let workers out, but then on the drop of a hat, like if they had an itchy ass, they would close the border. These are two. I mean, I think, to me, all eyes are going to be turning to the West Bank. That, to me, is the really sticky wicky now. Right. If I'm, and of course, there's the question. I guess Hamas gets to keep Gaza, and Fatah gets to keep whatever's left of the West Bank.
Yeah.
But what do you do about these 700,000 colonists in the West Bank who have no legal basis to be in, on Palestinian land? Yeah, well, they've got to go, but I mean, the argument, like,
they're not going to go.
Yeah, they're not going to go. It's like they're the facts on the ground. These are children who were born here and raised here. This is their homes too. Why can't the Palestinians share? Why are they so churlish?
Yeah. That's why people are just now beginning to talk about a 3-state solution, right? The West Bank is independent Palestine. The Israelis get to keep Israel plus whatever settlements they're able to negotiate, and somebody administers Gaza.
Well, that would solve one problem, but it would create at least one more, right? So it would solve the issue of the fact that you have two non-contiguous territories, right?
Yes.
There was always conversations about how there needs to be some kind of corridor, like a highway that's protected between the two that goes through Israel. But that, I mean, you and I both know, like from history, non-contiguous territory causes trouble.
Yes.
East Pakistan and Pakistan and so on.
Yep.
So, but it creates another problem. I can see how Gaza can be viable. Gaza can be a tourist attraction, not necessarily Trump's vision in his AI video, but it can be beautiful beaches, stunning beaches, beautiful, beautiful climate, great place to visit, good food, what's not to like. They've got oil, as we've talked about. So, they can, between tourism and natural resources, Gaza can make it. The West Bank doesn't have anything. Right? I mean, I don't think it's economically viable. It would be like Lesotho. It would be a landlocked, cut off from the world, no natural resources, desperately poor. I mean, here, I don't want to sound like some Zionists, but some Zionists just suggested that should go back to Jordan. And I think maybe that's right.
Could be. Could be, yeah.
But that's a deal, I guess, that the West Bank authorities could negotiate with the Jordanians. Maybe they become like a Kurdistan kind of autonomous zone. Right. They have autonomous status with the way that Waziristan does with Pakistan. It's part of Jordan. They pay taxes. The Jordanian army comes in when there's a crisis, but not generally.
Right. Yeah. Half the population of Jordan is Palestinian anyway.
Yeah.
So that could work.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. John, do you think Donald Trump will be the person who is able to negotiate this 3-state or 2.5-state solution?
No, I honestly don't. Donald Trump is definitely not a detail guy.
No.
I've got this story that I've told a number of times, Ted. A friend of mine was at Camp David in the final week of the Clinton administration. He was the senior director at the National Security Council for Middle Eastern Affairs. And talks between Israel and the Palestinians were taking place under the direction of Vice President Gore, who was very much a detail man, as was Clinton. And my buddy said that on the last day, they had this enormous map of Jerusalem on the table, and with a Sharpie, they're literally dividing Jerusalem block by block. And when they finished, Gore said, "My God, we have peace." And Yasser Arafat said, "I can never sell this to the Palestinian people." And he walked out. Gore ran out after him. And he said, "Wait a minute, you can't just walk out. If you don't like the deal, then we can renegotiate whatever it is that you don't like." And he said, "I can never sell any deal to the Palestinian people." And that was the end of it. And then Clinton said in his memoir, his first memoir, that he wished he had spent that week not trying to negotiate peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis, but instead trying to open diplomatic relations with the North Koreans. You may remember, maybe you don't, but I do, Madeleine Albright, the Secretary of State at the time, was not at those Arab-Israeli talks because she was in Pyongyang trying to convince the North Koreans to open diplomatic relations. So instead of, walking away from one to strengthen the other and then come out with a victory, we ended up with 2 failures.
That sucks.
So my point is, Gore and Clinton were detail guys. Trump is absolutely, positively not a detail guy. So if the detail guys couldn't work out the details, then the guy who just says, "Make peace or else," he's not going to make.
Well, I mean, it's been mentioned, right? But Trump is I think it comes from Trump's business background. When you do a real estate deal or a big financial transaction, you have a deal sheet with the basic points that's usually a single piece of paper and has like a set of bullet points that basically says, Kiriakou Corp is selling 40% to Rall Corp, and we're going to have an exchange of this many shares, and this office will belong to you, and that office will belong to me. But it's just very basic. It might just be a few hundred words, and then all the details are hashed out by the lawyers, and then ultimately codified and signed. And that's what he's used to. He's not used to like a Paris Versailles 1919 kind of conference where you're sitting poring over a map of Kurdistan, trying to figure out what part of it goes to Turkey and what part of it ends up in Iraq, and
exactly.
And where Iraq should be and why, and like the
somebody
blah, blah,
call the British.
Yeah, of
Don't
course.
fix it.
British cartographers have never caused any problems,
Right?
So. Yeah, no, I see that, but I mean, but a weird part here is we are somehow closer to something than we've ever been. Is that due to Donald Trump, or is that due to Hamas, or is that due to both?
Yeah, I think it's due to Hamas, and I think it's due also in part to the historic overreaction of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, that was his big mistake, right? I mean, first of all, I just want to hand it to Hamas strategically, right? I mean, they played this long game, probably for at least 5 to 10 years. They created the Gaza subway, right? They created this massive infrastructure of tunnels so that to prepare for this future when there would be another Israeli onslaught, even bigger than anything they'd ever seen before. And then they launched the raid, and to provoke this reaction, which they wanted a big blockbuster reaction. The worst from the Palestinian perspective, the worst thing could have happened would have been for the Israelis to treat this like a crime, to ask Hamas to arrest the perpetrators, reseal the border, ask Hamas to extradite anyone who's guilty. Maybe just do a pinpoint commando raid into Gaza.
Right.
That would have absolutely killed them. They would have been in Qatar fuck, they didn't fall for our trap.
Yes, I agree completely.
But
yes.
But I think they're all toasting each other, everything came up Hamas, like that,
right.
Like in The Simpsons, everything's coming up Milhouse. It's like
I love that,
and it's this is not, by the way, to praise. I have nothing in common with Hamas or their ideology or their religion at all. I would not like to live under their rule. I'm just saying, good job tactically, though. Really,
very good job tactically.
So let's see. So Philip Blair 9511 says the Germans were emptied out of Königsberg. Families who'd lived there for centuries. That's true. I mean, certainly there's been mass displacements of people many times. Look, there were Israeli settlers in Gaza, and they were forced they were kicked out by the IDF before.
And Sinai.
Yeah, and a lot of them. Yeah,
a lot. Whole towns.
And just recently in Nagorno-Karabakh, right? The Azeris kicked out the Armenians, ethnic Armenians. So, I mean, you can have mass displacements of people, and these are people who shouldn't be there. So, when we're talking about the West Bank settlers, and the numbers are just so crazy. I mean, they possess 60% of the West Bank in terms of the land. So
it's crazy.
I mean, it's what the hell?
Breaking thing, if
go
I
ahead.
could. Oh no, you have breaking news.
Breaking news. Robbie just put it up. New York Times is reporting that gold is now at $4,000 an ounce. Amid turmoil and nervousness and anxiety in the securities markets.
4,000 is one of those psychological thresholds that's never been met before. So that's at a record. Silver has moved even more strongly into record territory. and now people are predicting that Bitcoin will soon follow.
Well, at least gold's got inherent value, unlike Bitcoin. The thing is, I'm old enough to remember when gold had a fixed rate of $35 an ounce in 1973.
Yep.
Man, I wish I'd used my paper route money to buy gold.
Yeah, I wish I had.
It's like
I remember those days.
Yeah, $35.
Nixon changed it for everybody.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, I do understand the gold bug thing completely. I mean, there's something very primal about like I want to be like a bridge troll. I want gold. It's so beautiful, but it is.
It is. Never tarnishes.
I want those. I lust for those $20 gold pieces. I used to collect coins avidly. Now it's just I don't do that anymore. I like paper currency better. It's really affordable and it's cool. Yeah, the graphics and everything.
I always keep my euros when I come home from a trip to Europe. Always. And then
I miss the French francs.
Do you still have francs?
Yeah, with the with like Moliere and stuff.
Oh,
and
sure.
Like that.
Yeah,
so
actually,
beautiful.
I have a lot of old drachmas. Anytime I encounter an old drachma that's made out of silver, like pre-1964, I buy it and just toss it in a bag of hundreds of other drachmas.
Well, I mean, it says something when like I explained that to my kid, like so you understand, like if you want to know what happened to this country, dimes and quarters were 90% silver until 1965. I mean, that tells you a lot about a country. If you go back and look at World War II currency like Vichy coins, they were aluminum, and they had a hole punched in the middle because they couldn't even afford the aluminum or the tin that they used to make them. Yeah.
How embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. Well, John, they don't even, when they redesigned, the $20 bill to its current iteration. I don't know if you read this, but it's an incredibly ugly bill. It's like it's off. The proportions are all off wildly, and it just looks like someone who was dropped on their head at birth, like designed it, right? And then they were interviewed. I think it was in the New York Times. They called the Mint, and they said the Mint confided that they had not hired a graphic designer to do this. For literally the U.S. $20 bill is the most widely circulated bill in the world, right? It's the standard, like people keep 20s and 100s, like, all over the world as their savings. And like no graphic designer had anything to do with it. They said their only concern was anti-counterfeiting measures. They did not care what it looked like. Jeez. And it's like, this is it's like a step forward. Meanwhile, it's sort of like what happened. I don't know if you remember this incident, like with postage stamps, but about, I think 10 years ago, one of the Forever stamps with the Statue of Liberty head on it, it turned out that it was a photo of the Statue of Liberty on top of the New York casino in Las Vegas. It was not the actual. And so it turned out that the post office had paid $8 to a company that has stock photography for the rights to this photo, and nobody bothered to check whether it was the real thing or not. So they literally put out a stamp that had the wrong Statue of Liberty on it. And back in the day, if there was a fuck up like that, the Postal Service would have recalled the run and shredded them all, and they would have become highly desirable. Like, they're like, keep printing them, whatever. Meanwhile, like back in like the 1930s, if you engraved just like a little stamp that was like a 2-cent stamp that was like had a picture of like Andrew Jackson on it or something, those guys literally got $100,000 to engrave a stamp like that. In the Depression. Tariq, thanks for the donation. Bosnia, he says, is the real ideal solution for the country, is divided up to accommodate 3 ethnic groups. Dayton, peaceful but not ideal.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Well, we've touched on it a couple of times. Bosnia, I think, would have to be the model. Because if you look at a map of Bosnia, it's got all these little islands of not Bosnia, whether it's Republika Srpska, I always hated that name.
Yeah,
Serb
me too.
Republic, or whatever else they were able to negotiate that is Serb. It has worked against all odds, and maybe that's the model that the world needs to be thinking about.
Could work.
Hey, real quick, Ted.
Yeah.
We only have about 11 minutes left, so I wanted to raise this whole Ghislaine Maxwell thing.
Please.
Trump said something yesterday that was very, very disturbing. Somebody asked him if he was going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, and he said, disingenuously, he hadn't thought about it. Oh, I haven't heard that name in a long time, he said.
God, the lying.
And he knows, he must know that nobody believes him. But anyway, and then he said, oh, a lot of people ask me for pardons. And then the reporter followed up by shouting, are you considering pardoning her? And he said, well, I haven't heard that name in a long time. I'm going to have to take a look at it. This is a convicted child molester and child sex trafficker. Let's say he doesn't even pardon her. Let's say he commutes her sentence, which is just as good, right? Pretty much. What does that do to Donald Trump among Republicans? Because remember, it's the Republicans who think that the government is made up of child molesters and sex traffickers, right? And there's this secret cabal that, eats the hearts of children or whatever. What does that do to Trump and his coalition? I think Robbie and I agree. Robbie just texted, nothing will destroy Trump's coalition faster than him pardoning her. I agree. I think he's really playing with fire here, and maybe he just doesn't even realize it.
I think he realizes it, and that's why he's dragging his feet. He's rolling Hamas style on this. He's definitely, he knows it's going to fracture his coalition. He knows it's fraught. But let me flip this on let's look at this Rubik's Cube from the other side. What happens if he doesn't pardon her? What's the downside for him? Or commuter sentence?
The downside is that somebody out there, and I'm just making this up, somebody out there has documentary evidence that he committed a crime. Let's even assume that the statute of limitations has expired. But there's documentary evidence that he was somehow involved with Jeffrey Epstein, and it's released. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, she's been transferred to that minimum security facility. Despite the fact that if you have been convicted of a sex crime, you are not eligible to be sent to minimum security. So why? Why did that happen?
That was a personal favor. First of all, only the Attorney General can order that, right? Or the Attorney General on behalf of the president. But the Attorney General makes that decision. So, the obvious answer is there has to be some sort of quid pro quo.
It feels like there's something hanging over Donald Trump. Yeah. We don't know what it is. We can guess, but he could just say, if there wasn't, why wouldn't he just say, fuck her, lock her, she's locked up, throw away the key, and see you in 20 years, bye.
Yeah. Thank you, Real, for those kind comments. Appreciate it.
I wanted to, I did want to ask you, John, I was very curious what you'd think about this. So I read in with great interest and considerable detail her appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yes, which was denied yesterday, day before.
Which was denied. Frankly, I thought she was wronged. I think she made a good point. She was arguing. So basically, back in 2008, when Jeffrey Epstein was, basically cut a deal with prosecutors down in Florida for sex crimes, and they agreed not to prosecute him or any of his associates who were involved. That would include her. she claims that she should have therefore been covered on these charges in New York. These are all federal charges. Her lawyer's argument was, if you make a deal, if I, Ted Rall, make a deal with federal prosecutors here in New York City, and I say, and like I'm free to go. You can't prosecute me for that crime. The federal prosecutors in Oregon shouldn't be able to touch me either, because it's one country. It's the United States. It's the federal authority is over the entire country, and the Oregon prosecutors can't say, well, we're the Oregon district. Like, no, like I made a deal. You guys made a deal, and you said I could walk. I think she's right.
She may be. Well, she may be like philosophically, but this court said no.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, to me, this was a political decision on the part of the U.S. Supreme Court. I think they knew, and that's why they didn't issue a formal opinion.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like,
there was
it's no just no.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you and I have talked about how we had certain decisions in our cases that basically came down to, if your name is John Kiriakou or Ted Rall, this law does not apply to you.
Uh-huh.
So if your name is Ghislaine Maxwell, this law does not apply to you. I don't know. Every time something like this happens, John, it always makes me wonder, why do people make deals with the feds? Why do they trust them not to like renege? I mean, look at you. They reneged with you. They said you were going to a camp. They said you were going to Club Fed. Then you arrive and they're like, fuck you. You're going to the real clink. I mean, everybody hears about these stories. It's like, why on earth? It's like, if I were ever arrested, I'd be like, I don't believe a word you say. You guys are liars.
That's right. That's right. I can tell you why people take a deal, and it's 98% of federal criminal cases end in a plea bargain, and it's because of something called federal sentencing enhancements. So if you turn down a deal and go to trial and are found guilty, they add time to your sentence for what they call failure to accept responsibility.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Isn't that unconstitutional? Because it's punishing you for your decision to avail yourself of your constitutional right to defend yourself.
That's right. Yes, you're exactly right.
I assume that's been adjudicated, unfortunately. Hey, so Robbie's bringing up another interesting point. He said we're forgetting about Thomas Massey's bill forcing the release of the Epstein files. Massey announced on social a day or two ago that he has the 218 votes necessary to force the release, and that the real reason that the Republicans are letting the government stay shut down is because that way the House isn't reconvened, and that's not going to come up for a vote.
Wow, he's got the 218. So what we're talking about here is what's called his discharge petition.
Mm-hmm.
These things only come once a decade. Yep. When the House leadership has a bill bottled up in committee or subcommittee, and you want it to go to the floor of the House for a vote, you have to file a discharge petition, which discharges it from the committee, usually the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee decides what goes to a vote and what doesn't. But then it's complicated. It used to be that the Rules Committee was the most powerful committee in the House, and now it's the Speaker that decides what the Rules Committee releases. So, but anyway, thanks to Newt Gingrich. Anyway, if Massey has 218 votes, that's all Democrats and 5 Republicans. And that means the vote will be likely 218 to 2, I guess it's 16 now because there's still a vacancy. And all of those Jeffrey Epstein documents will be made public.
And
Massey is one of my favorite members of Congress. This guy doesn't give a shit if he gets reelected or not.
That's great.
It's great. It's got to be liberating.
Oh, totally.
Only in getting the truth out there.
John, it's time to wrap things up. But before we do, let's bring in Robbie for one last reminder and push for people who are just joining us. Hey, Robbie, we see your shoulder. It's a beautiful shoulder. I love your shoulder.
It's the best shoulder. Yeah, sorry, I was getting TMI ready to go. Speaking of TMI, we are building a network. So if you're here on Rumble, just stay tuned. We're going to be rating the TMI show where you get to see more Ted Rall, less John Kiriakou, but you do get to see the beautiful Manila Chan. So it's, there's a win. There's a win and a loss. There's a little toss up there. We'll just call it what it is. But the biggest reason why I wanted to just come back on is that over on YouTube, we currently have 225 people watching us on YouTube. For those of you who tuned in late, YouTube has demonetized Deprogrammed. John and Ted get nothing from YouTube anymore.
Dangerous content.
We are trying to appeal it, but I mean, let's just be honest. YouTube is big because it's supported by the people who silenced John and Ted in the past. So I am asking you, if you want this show to continue, please follow them on Rumble. They are fully monetized on Rumble. They are Rumble partners. You can donate there. You become channel subscribers for $5 a month.
We have started to get money. We have started to see money from Rumble.
They have, but we need y'all's help, because for every one person that's watching on Rumble, there's 2 or 3 of you that are watching on YouTube. We need y'all's help. I am working for these guys for free because I refuse to take a dime from them while they cannot pay their bills. And so if I'm able to do that, the least you can do is go over and watch.
Hear, hear. Thank you very much, Robbie
That's
West.
all I've got to say. And just one quick thing, just about Epstein will go away. If Trump wants to destroy the Republican Party, all he has to do is release Maxwell. That will end the Republican coalition. That will destroy the Republican Party. I promise you, it's a creature from the right. And on that, I got to go to TMI.
Okay, and so do I. We'll be back tomorrow here with Deprogram with Ted Rall and John Kiriakou at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. John, watch out for the tarantulas, the snakes, and the mosquitoes, and the hurricanes. But otherwise, it's paradise, yeah?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Wonderful.
Bye.
Bye-bye.